This is the Rebel Scum Podcast. Available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/RebelScumPodcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You're always scum.
Rebel Scum.
Indeed. Hey, everyone. This is James, Rebel Scum Podcast. Brock is working today, so he will not be joining me on this show. It's just me. We're going Unleashed today. Should be a good time. Lots of fun. Coming up, talking Ahsoka. Before we get things going, I'll bring this up a few times, but I have a book. It's called Capeside Bay. It's available now wherever you buy your books. You want to buy it on Amazon, you go to Amazon, you buy it. You want to buy it on Barnes & Noble, you buy it on Barnes & Noble. Hello, Heidi, in the chat. Coming up with the Unleashed, going to talk some Ahsoka, but I want to wait till Brock's in to go like deep, heavy on the Ahsoka conversations and whatnot. I know he really wants to be a part of it, but the Blue Jays are playing, and he's working that game, and it's a busy time of the year for him. So at least Andrew's not here society yet. It's a busy time of the year for him. So I'm gonna try to do as much as I can with him, and then obviously without him, if that is the case, and we will be bringing Andrew on as well if Andrew decides he wants to be a part of this. But this is going to be a short little conversation now about Ahsoka and about the Andor show, Cassian Andor. Andor was a show, I guess we're going to rewind a little while, that kind of like, I remember people being like, I don't care about Andor. Why would I want to watch Andor? How do you say no to Fantasia being on? But people were saying like, why would I care about Andor? He dies. I don't want to watch Andor. And the thing with Star Wars, and I guess, I mean, the title card of Star Wars is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which says to me that everybody that we're watching is dead. They're all long gone. Like, these are stories of people that have been dead for a long time ago. For a long time, these people have been deceased. So I never really had a problem with like that idea of Andor. I was like, well, what are we going to get? Like, obviously, we're not going to get most of the players from Rogue One. How could you? We are introduced to them, and they're introduced to us in Rogue One. And then the show was delayed. Also, if you remember, it was supposed to come out at the end of August, and then it came out in the middle, or I think it was like the end, like a month later in September, and we got 3 episodes all at once, which I think really benefited that show. Heidi's saying that her sister said she didn't watch the show because Ewoks confusing Andor with Andor. Totally makes sense as well. We should ask like Gary Whitta how they came up with the name Andor. I will say this, like, people give Disney Star Wars crap about a lot of things, but and it's not Disney Star Wars, I know, whatever. But the Disney era of Star Wars. But one thing I will say is their names are very similar. Sabine Wren, Kylo Ren, Andor. It's like they need to like stay away from the same names. Like, that's what the story group should be doing, keeping them in check and not reusing names or repurposing names. Well, look, the show came out and it was delayed. We got 3 episodes at once. Like I said, I think it worked very much in the show's favor that they did that, because those 3 episodes were fine. I didn't think they were spectacular. Like, I thought they were very good. I'm weird. I like weird stuff, though. I like kind of like that kind of like slow and not much happened. But, you know, the 3rd episode was a big explosion and a lot of things happened. Disney Desi is here, who is saying Bright Suns and Good Journey. Because she, I believe, is still in her mind's still on the Star Wars hotel. I believe we're gonna have a conversation. She's gonna come on the show and have a conversation. But I know Brock has to be with you for that conversation. He will not allow that to be without, because he is. I think that's something that he would have done. But you were, I guess, one of the lucky few to go on one of the last voyages of it all. Anyway, back to Andor. The thing with Andor is it gives you it was like Rebels, the animated show was such a solid show, and Andor was kind of like, well, here's like the adult live action version of that. that's really, to me, what Andor felt like. Was kind of like, it was kind of like Rebels. We saw more through one character's eyes, obviously, and Andor, to its credit, also was it took some big risks. I felt like, what was it, 3 episodes, 6 episodes in, whatever it was, all of a sudden he gets arrested and he's in prison, and like your main antagonist is in prison for the next few episodes, and then we got Andy Serkis, and he was like Kylo Shinoy or something. Like, he was fantastic. And we met these new characters, and obviously characters that are going to meet later on show up as well. And you kind of understand. And they're building the Death Star, and we see that Andor builds what ends up being his demise, and the demise of more than just him as well. But his demise, he helped build his own demise, which was such great storytelling. Kino Loy was that's right, Heidi. Desi. It was Kino Lloyd. Great character. Apparently coming back for season 2. I had no issue with the way he went out. I was kind of hoping we wouldn't get. I mean, I thought he was spectacular, but I was kind of okay with never getting any more Kino Loy. And as whose DNA builds Snoke. Oh boy, there we go. In the Snoke theories. But so Andor was kind of like a surprise, I think, for everybody as well, for tone, for like, I think visually it was remarkably well shot and lit. Better than maybe any Star Wars we've gotten, period. I think it looked better than Last Jedi is a nice looking film. I think it did look better than Last Jedi, though. I mean, the thing cost $250 million to make. I do think it looked better than Last Jedi. It looked better than all of the original trilogy, and the prequels were all shot in front of a blue screen. And then, is saying that Andor is the number one show. My mic was just like, you're not. I don't want. My mic was offended with what I was saying, and so it stopped communicating. It was like, how dare you? But I do think Andor is the nicest looking of all the Star Wars we've ever gotten. And it surprised me that it looked as good as it did, but it cost $250 million. It's not like it was cheap. The Mando season 1 was what, $80? This was $250, $60 million, whatever it was. I don't understand. Like, that's a lot of money to spend on a streaming show about a character that most people are like, well, he's dead. Why do I like? As great as the show was in the end, like going into it, I don't think a lot of people really had the care for it. And so it's not like you're going to gain subscribers for a Cassian Andor show. I don't know. And Heidi's saying it's number 1. And Desi's hacked into the mic after I dissed okay, first of all, I didn't diss The Last Jedi. I said The Last Jedi is a great looking movie, but I think Andor was better. But again, what's the budget on The Last Jedi? Was it as much as Andor was? Like, the Andor budget is astronomical. It's stupid how much that thing costs. But I'm okay with it because I really like the show. I thought the show worked out great. Now we have Ahsoka. I don't know what the budget is on Ahsoka. It was probably $400 million on this thing. And Ahsoka, I think, is wonderful. I'm having a great time watching this show. I love the characters in this show. I don't know where the show's going. I don't know if the show wants me to know where it's going. And people are like talking like Ahsoka's the best Star Wars, Andor is the best Star Wars. Like, what is the best Star Wars, and why does it? First of all, why does it matter? But let's talk a little bit about why either one of them could be the best Star Wars. Neither one of them is. Mando season 3 is the best Star Wars. I actually like Mando season 3. I love Book of Boba Fett too. This is why I think I'm fair at doing this, because I love them all. I'm with Heidi probably in that Andor is probably number 1 for me. But I said this on the last podcast with Brock. We're going to do a ranking this time for real on our Thanksgiving show of the live action TV Star Wars. But we can only rank season 1 because I don't think it's fair to go any further because the show changes. Every show changes. Every show evolves the further along it gets. So you can make, like, season 1's fantastic, yeah, but and then you're like, season 2 sucked, but this show doesn't have a season 2, so you're going to rank that show lower than season 2, even though maybe you thought season 1 was better than the other show. It just, to me, it doesn't work. So we're only going to rank probably like first seasons just to make it fair. Heidi's saying Reylo is the best Star Wars. What, and Desi says, what is the best Star Wars and why is it The Last Jedi? And then Heidi's saying that I look beautiful. I know that's not what you meant, but I'm going to take it that way. And Desi is with Heidi on Reylo. Speaking of Florida, the Jays are beating up on the Rays last I checked, which is very nice. Is it still 8-0 or did that change? Let's go update the score. Oh, it's 10-4 Jays. Top of the 7-0 out. Rays are going to come back to tie it. And okay, you can plan what you want to plan. So let's talk a little bit about how one could be better than the other. And I'm going to say I don't think it's a fair argument for a number of reasons, but it's also a very fair argument because at the end of the day, they're both Star Wars. And if we do a show like ranking Star Wars, then something has to be, like, there has to be a good and ultimately, I guess, a bad or lowest ranked. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the Andor versus Ahsoka. Bum, 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 bum. Ahsoka would kill Andor in like 3 seconds, given the if this was like Mortal Kombat, like, Andor would have no chance. But this isn't. This is about 2 TV shows that are vastly different, but both very Star Wars. And what is one better than the other? Andor, to me, has a little bit of an upper hand for new casual fans. Has the upper hand for new casual fans because you don't have to watch Rebels, right? You had to watch Rogue One, which I think most people who would watch the live action Star Wars would have watched Rogue One. Whereas Ahsoka, Aaron hasn't been caught up yet. My wife is not caught up, so I'm not sure how she's like. She wasn't all in on the first, I think, 2 episodes we watched together. I think that's what we watched together. She wasn't all in on that. She was kind of like, I don't really know how I feel about this. Like, she was in Andor. However, she also was not in the Andor as well. Mandalorian, though, all 3 seasons. Grogu, you put that in, you know it. So you lose out on, because I think like Sabine and Ezra, they have in Ahsoka, and I think this is the weakest part of Ahsoka, and a lot of people will probably disagree with me, but I mean this, and I love Rebels and the reunion with Ezra, and that was great, but I still feel like the whole Ezra being missing was lacking in a lot of ways. And look, I love Ahsoka. Ahsoka could be my number 1 or 2, whatever. That's not the point. But I do think that the Ezra stuff was lacking a little bit. I don't think he was, like, time-wise from when we actually watched the last episode of Rebels to now, a lot of time passed, but being reintroduced to the characters, no time really passed. Six episodes passed before we got Ezra back. And we just kind of heard like, oh, your friend Ezra's out there. And it seemed very easy to find Ezra and Thrawn. So it kind of like, it just felt like Ezra being missing wasn't a big thing, because also yes, in Rebels, he's been gone and that, but it just, if you strip away like all that stuff and you just look at it, it almost felt like he wasn't gone long enough and he wasn't difficult enough to find. Now, I'm watching the show weekly, as are you. If you binge it, it might play differently. Because if you remember the first 2 episodes, I have the map. Can you open the map? Oh, I accidentally opened the map. But I get that weekly. So I have to wait. But the waiting is making it seem like it's almost like going too fast. And I feel like, if this was a movie, I think it would have been stronger. But it's not. It's a TV show. So I think I just feel like the Ezra Sabine. Oh, you're obsessed with Sabine, or you're obsessed with Ezra. You do anything to find Ezra. To me, has been lacking a little bit. I think the show needed a little bit more. I think the show, even though we got it in Rebels, I think the show needed more Sabine and Ezra in live action in some capacity. To kind of get you there. I think it tried hard It did try hard. I don't know if it succeeded fully. That's a knock on that one. Andor starts off as like, I gotta go. I'm looking for my sister. Was he really looking for his sister? I mean, we got the flashbacks where I guess he has a sister, but was he actually looking for his sister, or was that just a ploy for like the ruse for what he was doing, which is possibly it. I also prefer weekly. Because I'm just saying, I think if you watch it all at once, it might play better. I still think this show works better as a movie. I just think it's more of a binge watching show still. The episodes still haven't. Oh my god, there's a fly in here and it's attacked my ear. Heidi is saying, I've said this a lot, but binging M3 was better. I agree. As much as it had its problems, episode 6 of Boba Fett puts back above Ahsoka for me. Wow. All right. Fair enough. I think Ahsoka, just because the characters are coming from that the animated realm, it's as much as I love seeing them, there's still like a separation between them in a few ways. And I think because it's been so long since Rebels was out, that there might have been that as well. I think that the whole situation with Sabine and with Ezra would have been stronger if we would have gotten a little bit more of them together somehow. I don't know, you flashback. I'm not whatever. I'm just saying that. So that to me, there was a little bit of an emotional letdown when it's like, oh, Ezra's here. Yeah, that's great. And fine. That's Ezra. But we're good to go. Thrawn, kind of the same way, right? Like Thrawn shows up. I think it was just because it was so easy to find. Like we got there in 5 episodes. Like it was like, okay, we're here. Great. Awesome. Like we already got these guys. So that kind of put the damper on that one. Andor, on the other hand, had very little to do with Star Wars. It took like 6 episodes, 4 episodes, 5. We got Shore Troopers finally. Like it took a long time to get it. It kind of had its own thing. Like even the beat was a B2 emo droid didn't really have that Star Wars aesthetic to him. It didn't have that look, the feel, the Doug Chang look, right? Or it didn't have that look that Star Wars has. It was something different. It was BBC. It felt a little bit more BBC than Star Wars. Didn't take away from it for me. I mean, it didn't. I think a lot of the sequels. It did something that The Force Awakens didn't do great, and that was it took like a lot of new stuff, but then it gave us like the old school stormtroopers when we needed them. And it kind of like it took you back to like what Star Wars was a little bit more, and the characters. If Star Wars is the Archies, that Andor is Riverdale. That's a good way of looking at it. Riverdale was a wild show. So Ahsoka though has something in it, and this is where for me it would give Ahsoka the edge. Sorry, Heidi. And this is what it is Ahsoka, for all of those little flaws, for the fact that it doesn't look as nice as Andor or whatever, although it looks great, being shot on the volume especially, it looks fantastic. It has some of the best lightsaber fights we've gotten. And they haven't just been like spectacular to watch, but they've had the emotional connection as well, right? Like for me, I get bored now a lot when I watch a movie or a TV show and it's all action and they're fighting and you're like, okay, whatever. Like I get bored of watching fighting on screen now, except for Mortal Kombat. That's awesome. But I get bored of watching it because all choreographed, it's whatever. It's like I watch some of these things. I'm just like the action part bores me. For me, I would rather watch a movie with people sitting around a room talking, is having a good time, and that's really the kind of movies that I watch. But Ahsoka's lightsaber fights, you got the Balin, you got the Shinhati, and Sabine, and that's got a little bit more to it because Sabine's kind of like a former apprentice. She doesn't have the Force. She kind of has this lightsaber that Ezra left her. She's kind of fighting with it. She knows what she's doing, but she doesn't really know what she's doing. She's more just trying to survive. And Shinhati's like, well, I can take you out. But because Sabine's a Mandalorian and rugged and everything, she can't really. And then the stabbing. Look, I know people are defending the stabbing, but they need to stop with this. Just stop with the stabbing. Just stop it. Disney Desi is saying that the lightsaber fights haven't been as good as Praetorian Guards. Maybe. And then like like Balin and Ahsoka, that was that when we first see them, that's great. The last one that we just had in episode 7, I thought was really good, really strong. I love watching it. Ezra using the Force against Shahati to have that laser fight, that was fun. That was something we haven't seen too much of. It was reminiscent of which sequel movie was it when Kylo kind of stops it? It was one of the ones. The episode of The World Between Worlds, Anakin versus there's Jaws behind me. Anakin versus Ahsoka in The World Between Worlds, and we see them all there, and then they fight. As great as an episode as that is, I don't think it's as good as Andor's best episode, which I would probably argue was the Eye. I don't think it's as strong as Andor's best episode. I think it's lacking a few things. I think the lesson that Ahsoka learns is kind of like, okay, like I felt like she's already learned this lesson before. Like it didn't feel like anything new. Like it wasn't as powerful as I thought it was going to be in the end of it all. Joshua Brown is here saying, really thought Ezra was going to blow our minds with his Force powers, and he just kind of did normal stuff, which was a bit of a letdown. He could, somebody brought up that maybe he wasn't really using the Force while he was in hiding because he knew that Thrawn and the witches could find him that way. That's a possibility. I thought what he did was fine with the Force for now. I think the story of Sabine and Ezra and maybe Ahsoka, but Sabine and Ezra for sure we're just heating up, right? You don't want him to go full throttle right away. I mean, you do, and I would too. But I just like a story wise, I don't think you'd want him to go full throttle from the get go. Can you hear me? Am I going? So I can see that's why he's a little bit muted. I did like his fight though. I did like the way he wasn't using the Force. But Ezra, here's my thing with Ezra though, that I think also I don't know how to describe it, but like Ezra in like the second and third episode of Rebels was one of the most intriguing characters in Star Wars because we knew nothing about him. We knew that he's not around during the original trilogy. Like and so something was going to happen. Obviously Kanan, I think we all kind of knew was going to die. But Ezra, we had no idea what was going to go up with him. Didn't feel like a character that age was going to get killed off. And then they did what they did with him, which was fine. But in season 2 and 3, he really flirted with the dark side in season 2 and 3. And I always really liked that. And that's something that I remember I was always kind of hoping, like, I'm babbling, but I was always hoping with The Force Awakens, like when I would watch the trailers for it. And I think no, we didn't do a podcast back then. We've been doing this for 7 years, but we did it just after. But I remember in the Force Awakens trailers just being like, man, Rey looks like she's got a lot of like anger in her. Like, does she have the dark side in her? And obviously she ended up being a Palpatine, which was what Fantasia predicted from the start. And he was disappointed in the way they handled it. But I just think like, and I didn't like when I saw people be like, oh, my daughter looks up to Rey. How can you make Rey evil? I'm like, well, I'm sure kids would have looked up to Anakin if we didn't know. It's whatever. For me, I want to see more of that. The flirtation with the dark side. Like Kylo Ren is such an intriguing character, and there's like a whole story of him that we don't really get. We get told a little bit of it, but we don't really get it. Like, and that to me, I'm like, that's really interesting. I don't want to read it in a book. I want to watch it. Joshua Brown is saying that Ezra is my favorite character in Star Wars, mostly because of that arc he had where he struggled with the dark side and resisted. Yeah, absolutely love that. Heidi is saying that I thought Shin cutting Ezra's hair was a callback to Spaceballs. It probably absolutely was a callback to Spaceballs for sure. Does he say they were yin and yang? She was light and dark side, and Kylo was dark with light inside. Absolutely, but I don't see. The thing is that Kylo they kind of dealt with the light a little bit, but um, Ray, they shied a little bit too much away from the dark. I still think she should have cut off Kylo's hand in Last Jedi. I actually in the theater, I was like, oh my gosh, she could have cut his hand off. Yeah, it didn't happen. I'm not gonna get that ever again. Sabine's helmet is red in the opening. Interesting. She could be a character that could teeter with the dark side. I would love it. I just think that that's like that is like an intriguing storyline that we're just not getting. We got it with Anakin, and one of the flaws and I love Anakin and I love the prequels, but I don't really think they handled his kind of like transition to the dark side that well in the prequels at all. If there's a big flaw for me, it's that, and I would love to see one of these. And I think like the Force Awakens thought they were doing like a cool, like a better version of Anakin with Kylo, but I don't think they succeeded there. I thought they have. Don't get me wrong, I love Kylo Ren. I think he's a great character, but I don't think it worked in it. And in another way, very true. So I would love to see that if Sabine's a character that's going to teeter totter on it, I'm okay with that as well, because I think Ezra, like, he's already had that moment, which again, to Joshua's point though, is like, if he's not going to be super powerful in the Force, why? Like, what is going to make him an intriguing character and a different character than anything that we've seen? I think he will be strong in the Force. I think we've only just kind of touched upon his powers and what he's possible of doing, or I could be dead wrong. I don't know what we're in for in this last week. Fantasia texted me while he was watching. We kind of watched at the same time this week. I think we were both like 10 minutes late to watching it. We were both like, he was a little bit ahead of me. And he's like, I got this feeling it's going to end on a cliffhanger and we're going to have to wait like a decade to watch it, which I hope it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. And I also hope that we don't have to wait a decade to watch it. But with the writer's strike and the actor's strike, obviously they all seem to be wrapped. I mean, the writers have wrapped up, but it looks like the actors should wrap up soon. But I mean, everything's on delay so long that we might, like, who knows when we're going to get a second season of Ahsoka. That being said, they seem to have shot it and released it very fast anyway. So if see it, Desi. So if they thanks for watching. If Filoni has the ideas for the script and he can write the scripts quickly, maybe we'll get it soon. But yeah, I don't want a cliffhanger. Like, I like cliffhangers, but let me know when it's coming. Like, one thing I do miss about regular basic television is it ended in May. It was back in September. Right? It ended, when it was coming back. Now it's like Stranger Things. It's like, it ended. Yeah. Yeah, what? Yeah. It'll be back. When? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I just don't know. We're going to take some time to write it. Oh, man, the kids got old. We're going to wait, and we're going to pretend that the kids age for like, to me, that's frustrating and gets annoying, just waiting for it. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with my versus Ahsoka versus Andor. For me, and Ahsoka as a Star Wars show, Ahsoka gets the top spot. Will beat Andor as a Star Wars show. As a show, with one episode to go in Ahsoka, Andor holds that for now. For now. Joshua says, I don't think anything is getting resolved next episode because I think this is all coming to Filoni's movie that he is directing in the Mando verse. Heidi saying, I haven't watched TV in 6 months. I don't know when the last time I watched regular TV is either, to be honest. Well, actually, that's not true. I don't watch anything good, though. Yeah, I don't think it's going to get wrapped up next week, which is a fear. And does that weaken the season as a whole? Like, the season doesn't get wrapped up, is it? I think things will resolve. I don't think that it'll. I feel like it'll be like, okay, what's the next chapter? And my feeling with that, kind of like my feeling every week, pretty much with this show, has been like, all right, but that, like, almost too many of these episodes didn't feel complete, and that's why I think it would be a better movie, because it just feels like this is happening this week, this is happening next week. It's like, okay, but what if everything just happened? What if everything just happened? And that's why I'm very excited about the Lando thing, that being a show being turned into a movie, because it probably would work better as a movie. Do you wish they would recast the OG characters? Says Heidi. I'm okay with the creepy AI thing that they're doing. I think if you're gonna go like if they're gonna be like we're making a whole show about Luke, that might be a little bit much. But for cameos, I don't have a problem with it with what they're doing. I don't. I'm not gonna try to be the white knight up here and be like it's wrong or not wrong. I don't think it's wrong. It's weird. It's definitely weird, but but for like the small roles and the cameos, and if you can have Mark Hamill show up and be Luke Skywalker and Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, then do it, right? I think he like kind of retired from the role now. He said he's not going to do it anymore. But if you can get him to do those little things, give him a nice send off. Because look, even if the Last Jedi and Desi's gone, but if the Last Jedi is your favorite movie, that's great. But the reality is, like it's split the fandom in half. And Mark Hamill, as great as he is in that movie, and people, I think even the haters kind of say he's fine. But he took a bit of a beating with that movie. And so to bring him back, like you bring back Hayden Christensen, right? And you kind of let him, whether you feel he needs it or not, you give Mark Hamill a chance to redeem the Luke, right? Because he went back and was the Luke that everybody had from Return of the Jedi a little bit. So if you go back and you do that, I think it's fair. And I think just for his own mental state, I think that was good for him because, I mean, Book of Boba Fett might have brought him back down. But, Mandalorian I thought it was a great moment. He got a great moment. He got to be this big heroic moment, which was something he kind of complained that he didn't really get in the sequels, right? That he said, like, he didn't want to be a cameo, and he ended up just being a cameo. And he was very disappointed about that. So I think bring him in a cameo in Mandalorian, though, but letting him be heroic and, making YouTubers cry. I think that was important for Mark Hamill, and I think that was a good send off for him. And now, but if you do Luke Skywalker as a big character in a show, I think then you've got to go with casting somebody, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think we're either going to get small tidbits of Luke Skywalker, or Luke Skywalker is done. Han Solo, Alden Ehrenreich, I didn't mind, but I remember when the movie when Solo ended, I left the theater and we went, like we always went to these movies with big groups. It was actually my youngest sister's birthday. It came out, so we all went out to go see this movie, and I liked it. Brock liked it. I think we all kind of had a good time. Our reaction is somewhere online, I think, after the movie we kind of did a video. But then my mom was like, "Yeah, he wasn't Han Solo." I was like, "What?" And this is my mom. My dad liked every Star Wars, and then couldn't stand The Force Awakens, like Rogue One, hated Last Jedi, and didn't really care for Solo, and he hated Rise of Skywalker. But my mom liked them all, and she's like, he wasn't Han Solo. I was like, really? She's like, nah, I didn't. My mom did not buy Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, and what I take from that is my mom. I mean, it's just my mom. Oh, it's just your mom. But I think my mom spoke for a lot of people, like the opinion of a lot of people, where he might have been okay, but if you have to compare him to Harrison Ford, he's not Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford and Alden Ehrenreich, I thought, like I said, I thought he was fine, but he wasn't, like, really, if you watch it, he's very different. He tries it, but he doesn't have, Harrison Ford has this quality to him. I think like Chris Pine has a similar, I think Chris Pine has a little bit more of that kind of, still not the same, obviously, but Harrison Ford has this quality to him that we don't get a lot. And Chris Pratt doesn't have that quality. Chris Pratt has his own, it's a very different quality, but it's not the Harrison Ford quality. I think Pine would have been a better Indiana Jones than Pratt, but I just think that Ehrenreich was in a tough position. It's not his fault, but he's more Christian Slater than Harrison Ford. He doesn't have, it's like he tried to have the charisma, but he didn't have the charisma was a little bit off for him. But like I said, I was fine. I love the movie. I love Solo. I watch it all the time. I really love that movie, and his performances never bothered me. But again, but like my mom's opinion of him, I think really was on a lot of people's minds. And so when you recast, I think Lando recast works because Donald Glover kind of, like, he was channeling his inner Billy D. Williams, and he had the suave. He had it a little bit more. He was a strong. I think his casting was a little bit stronger in it. And Woody Harrelson, I will say Woody Harrelson is phenomenal in that movie. I still think. Joshua is saying Alden did great. I thought. I wish they would do more projects with him. It is hard to separate Harrison from Han for most people. That's the thing. It's you. So you bring up a really good point. It's very hard to separate Harrison Ford from Han Solo. Plus, we just watched Han Solo die like a little while ago, right in it, and we just had Harrison Ford as Han Solo fresh in our minds. But the other thing that you're saying that I think is even more is like you thought it would have been great to have more projects with Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, and I think if he doesn't work in the first movie for viewers, because he was great, like he did a good job as like it's hard like because the way I'm saying it is like he wasn't Harrison Ford, but he was good. I don't know if he was great, but I thought he was very good. Joshua was saying he's great, but I'm saying he's very good. But if you give him another chance as Han Solo, and he's just as good, then you give him another chance as Han Solo. Maybe he's a bit better, maybe he's just as good. All of a sudden, though, you start to buy into okay, he's my Han Solo because Ewan McGregor, though, I think also like Donald Glover, really channeled Alec Guinness a little bit more than Alden Ehrenreich channeled Han Solo. But I think what Ehrenreich was doing was more what Chris Pine was doing with Kirk, where he's like, I'm not going to be Han Solo, like I'm not going to be Harrison Ford Han Solo. And I think they play a little bit differently. And it is very difficult for people to separate those two. But I think if you would have given him an opportunity to portray the character again, and I also think there was a rumor, and we talked about this on the podcast. I think we talked about with Den of Nerds as well, way back when. There was a rumor that Rogue One was going to end with a post-credit scene with Alden Ehrenreich's Han Solo. And I think that little tiny piece would have played perfectly in the hands of Solo. I think it would have helped Solo a little. And it would have helped Alden Ehrenreich because Rogue One is, I don't think there's any question about it, the most appreciated and favorite of all the Disney films. I think it's the most, whatever word I'm looking for, it's the one that I think audiences kind of like if you pull them all, Rogue One's usually at the, like that's the one that everybody says is the best Disney era Star Wars. And I think if you would have put Alden Ehrenreich in a post-credit scene or a cameo scene in them, whatever, you get, because now you have goodwill from this movie. Everybody loves this movie. You throw him in there, people are like, okay, I like Rogue One, maybe I'll like Solo. And if you have the people that like, I hated The Last Jedi, I'll never go see another Star Wars movie. Oh, wait a minute, but that guy that was in Rogue One, I might have to watch that. So I think that would have helped the cause a little bit more of Alden Ehrenreich as well. But yeah, more projects. You put him in more projects. I think they hurt him more than they helped him. I think the May release again, I think that was a Bob Iger thing more than Kathleen Kennedy, who was just fired. Check the board. Kathleen Kennedy just fired. I do think though that hurt it as well. I think the May release 5 months after The Last Jedi, which of course was the most divisive, tomato, Star Wars movie of them all, doesn't help. And then you look, they didn't want it to go up against Mary Poppins, but Mary Poppins didn't go very well as well. And yeah, you're saying lack of marketing for Solo as well as the release date. And the lack of marketing comes from The Last Jedi. Last Jedi was in December, so they didn't market Solo until February when they did the trailer during the Super Bowl, which was a great trailer. I think it had a lot of people pumped up. It was a fantastic trailer. I did a live reaction. There's a whole bunch of videos I did. We did a show called Parsecs on the channel to do it. Most people that I talked to didn't see it in theaters, but they watched it on Disney Plus and they like it. I'm wondering what the numbers for Solo are on Disney Plus, because they do like the Make Solo 2 Day happen. And I think tweeting that out's fine, but if everybody just watched Solo on Disney Plus, Disney would have to take thrilling and unique with that, where we could have seen the last like few years or months or whatever in Darth Maul's And Darth Maul's life, that would have been intriguing, and I think a lot of people would have watched that story. And Kira, I think, was a great addition, and could and then where she went with Maul at the end, like there were little things that they could have done, they could do on Disney Plus, but they're not for whatever reason. And I don't know, they're just, to me, they're losing out on these. But then you say that, and then they got the Mandoverse, so they're not really. But yeah, Solo had its problems, and I don't think anything had to do with really the cast or the writing. It was beyond that, and it was more, yeah, like you said, marketing and the release, having it release in May when we all got used to going to go see these movies in December. That's what it did. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. My mic keeps unplugging. Look, it's like knotted up. It's just been frustrating. I can't do this. My wife's making candles. Also, if you do like candles, she makes her own. She makes these vessels. That's a concrete, that's cement vessel. This is a roasted espresso. Oh, it smells so good. And if you're like me and you're like a pumpkin spice female dog, I love pumpkin spice. Check this out. This is a pumpkin caramel. It's too bright. I can't show you. There's a pumpkin caramel, and it smells so good. I'm not even joking. Oh my god, I can't burn these, they're not mine, but they smell so good. So check those out. Also check out my book, Cape Side Bay, available wherever you buy your books online. You can go Barnes and Noble, Target, Chapters, Amazon, eBay, anywhere you want. Hit me up with a DM. Hit me up with a DM. We can make that happen as well. Cape Side Bay, available now. Thanks, everybody. Joshua, thank you. Heidi, thank you. Desi, thank you. And everybody else who was watching and not in the live chat, thank you so much, everyone. This has been a blast. I'll be back with Brock hopefully next time, but if not, I'll be back alone because I like doing these talks. Love talking Star Wars. Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, may the force of others... Hold on. May the force of others be with you.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.